Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your rehearsal process?
Or
does it?
It changes depending on the production, and depending on what I learned quickly was to be able to adapt and be able to modify things based on your circumstances. But typically my rehearsal process is I like to come in, like do a table read. I'd like to take about 2 or 3 more rehearsals to sit around the table and talk. I like to get it up on its feet, and I still like to talk about it as we go, as we do it. We have scripts in hands and do some basic blocking, and continue to, to get comfortable with it and flesh it out as we go. And then I like to, once I have it in place and everybody's off book, and then I like to sit back, get everything out of my hands and just watch it and craft it and paint pictures and get into that portion of it after we've, fleshed out what it's going to be. And then also be free enough then to be able to look, identify where we need to take something to, what we need to back off on, what we need more of, or what we need to do, and then focus on that. So I like to get the groundwork out of the way first. I like to get the,
Blocking.
let's talk it through. Let's get some ideas. Let's discover what this is, but then physically block it, get it on its feet, get that out of the way so that I can just get free and then go tweak, change, and adjust. It's always typically the way I go. Now with the play about the baby, it's a little bit different. I'm going to spend more time at the table because there's not much that we need to really block. It's 2 chairs in a blank, empty room. There is some stuff that we need to do and some physicality to it, but because it's theater of the absurd, because it's written the way it is, it's more important that we have really strong ideas about what direction we're going with each of these characters and what these scenes mean, what these little vignettes mean, what it all means as a whole. Because nobody is going to, my fear is that, people are going to leave here.
But it's Albie. Albie writes.
Albie.
I mean, anybody going into Albie kind of has an idea with it. I mean,
That's
look, he did Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Right.
I mean, the GOAT. I mean, that's very hard to like sell to like the mainstream. Like, oh yeah, she's a GOAT.
Right. Well,
like nowadays,
I mean,
you'd be like burned at the stake. They'd be like, how misogynistic is this?
Right, exactly.
When it's not really meant to be that. It's just,
no.
It's Albie.
Right. And with this, I mean, it's only been 2 weeks that we've been working on it, and it's been a blast. I mean, it's been, it's one of those things where I get into the rut of everyday administration of things and putting out fires and trying to find replacements and the things that I absolutely hate about, the everyday things that you're confronted with. But every once in a while, or even, shows, sometimes you're tasked with putting together a 30-person musical. There's a different feeling than when you get 4 people on a brilliant script by a legendary writer. I mean, it's a whole different feeling, and it's almost like a reward for me, or a treat to do this. So it's been a blast the past few weeks working with these actors, talking this through and envisioning what this could be. But there's always that fear. We just did a show called Small Mouth Sounds by Bess Wool, and there's very little dialogue in it. It's about is it 6 folks who go to a retreat where you cannot speak and you cannot make a noise. And you get to know each of these characters just through movement and through exercises and through what they do. And there's the voice of the teacher that is a recording that plays throughout the production. And
Charlie Brown.
Pretty much, almost. And we reached a point with that where I was coming in and sitting in rehearsals where I just thought, nobody's understand any of this, and they're not going to get it, and they're going to run me out of town on a rail. And there's always that fear of with things like that. I mean, will they get it? Will this work? Will this register? And that couldn't have worked better. So great. I want to hang my hat on that too. But it's just that fear of it's that producer, director, and then artistic director wrapped into one, sometimes you have different fears. You know, you have fears that'll stack up against each other.
Nobody's
you know,
gonna show up. Yeah.
Right. Are they going to show up? Are they going to buy tickets? And if they do that,
Will they understand it?
Right. Will they come back again? You know?
Yeah.
So
like that was the worst thing I seen. But I think since you're putting so much time into figuring out what the play is, which is very important, especially when you're doing something surrealist or something different like that. You know, that goes a long way. If you just kind of just throw it out there and be like, yeah, that's the way to, you know, you've thought it through. So
And,
I mean, it can still fall through because its audiences are fickle at times, but you know.
But I know that, you know, it's just, you know, the many sides of what you go through. But I know in my bones, I know we're on the right track, and I know it's going to be good. Just from, you know, you get those flashes, and
you can feel.
For me, you have a feeling, and then I'll get flashes where we'll go over a specific portion of a scene or whatnot, and I can visually really start to almost see it on an opening night or a performance level, and know just from my experience and from audiences and from what I know from doing this for years, that it's going to work. You know, it's just that I have to tell myself it's not going to work at some points. Some points to, you know, I don't know why. It's a crazy.
I mean, I mean, because we're trying to be artistic and be creative, but we also want people to come see it.
Right.
So they both kind of like, these things are kind of like butting heads, and you got to find that like right little mix.
Yes.
If you go a little bit over here, you know, you
you
don't want them to end up going to like if David Lynch did plays, you know, or something, or you know, some of Sam Shepard's stuff where, you know, you've got a lobster coming in and you're like, what the hell is that?
Right.
You know, like even reading it, you're like, oh, what?
Right.
Lobster with butter. Okay.
And with this, it dances between, you know, I guess somewhat realism, and then into like vaudeville and into different things that we've identified. And like, you know, there's even sequences where it's, you know, I won't give too much of it away, but there's an older man and an older woman who quickly turns, and they become villainous, and they become evil in some sense.
And that's Albie. Albie will do
but then all of a sudden they'll do
those turns.
Almost a who's on third routine together, you know, almost from Abbott and Costello. So it's just identifying that stuff and finding the balance and finding, you know, where you can make somebody. My favorite thing to do is to make somebody laugh, and then immediately give them that gut punch of something serious or something.
George Carlin. That's what George Carlin was all about. You take him up to the line, you take him a little bit over, and you know, you make him go, well, it wasn't so bad.
Right.
You know, it wasn't so bad to cross that. Maybe we could do a little more.
So it's been a treat to work on this, and it's an interesting and fulfilling life, certainly, to do what I do.
What would you like to do that you haven't done yet?
I guess more new work is what I'd like to do. I would like to develop more things in this studio theater, the black box theater that I have, and almost be like an incubator type space, you know, where the difficulty is, you know, I've had stuff over the years where I've had playwrights that have been in plays, acted in plays or whatnot for me, or been involved in the theater in one way or the other. People that have been decent to good writers, where I've been able to do some table reads and do some staged reading of some things. I also had a few playwrights in the Florida area. One who became pretty successful nationally, who did some stuff here for us. So I'd like to go more in that direction and actually, you know, maybe develop some of our own stuff here. Trying to have a group together now where I just identified some really intelligent, funny, smart folks that I guessed probably could write, or I asked if they had any writing background, and probably half of them did. and just start pounding out some 10-minute shorts for me. I'm trying to develop something for February. So I'm almost like in the beginning stages of trying to make that the next thing here, and trying to find like a troupe of, so I don't have to do like a nationwide call or a call in the area, because I find.
Yeah, then you got to get every person that's,
right.
Oh, I got to play.
And it's just me.
Like,
it's not like I have a team of people here. It's I have a few folks that'll help out, but it's, I can't handle all that. No, so my idea was, let's put some of these folks together. Right.
That's really 50 bad, but they'd be like,
and I hate to say it, and God bless everybody that tries this, but the majority of them usually are. You get in from just putting it to a typical call out.
Yeah. Well, it's just like if you put a casting wide for acting, you're going to get everybody who's like, oh, I took an acting class, I can do this.
Right. I always wanted to try this,
Yeah, it's like, let's try maybe this later, Let's not go for that part now.
Right.
Although the first play I ever did was Welcome to the Monkey House, and I had to do a Russian accent, and I was just like,
oh, really?
What the hell am I doing here? And I'm just like telling my acting coach, I'm like, yeah, I just wanted a simple play, and here I am doing one of the hardest things you could do on stage, a table scene, and we're using Russian accents.
Oh my God.
So that was my first foray into theater, was doing a play of something surrealist like that, where you're just like reading, it's like, really? This is the play you do? Okay, great.
Jeez, that sounds worse actually than a 45-minute monologue.
I don't know, but that being a novice and being put there, like, oh my God. But I love how you got lost, you jumped to the end, but you figured out a way to find it back. I mentioned Curb Your Enthusiasm at the beginning. There's the famous episode where he says his lines, forgets them, does a little stand-up bit, and then he remembers where he is and he brings them all back in. And I was just like,
was that when he was doing
picturing that?
The producers?
Yeah. He like forgets the like, you got a nice head of hair. And they cut to the audience and they're just like,
yeah.
And then he finds it again and he just figures it out. And that was such a brilliant thing. Wrapping up here, we kind of, anything else you'd like to say about Lake Worth Playhouse that we haven't touched on? Or
just I think that what's been interesting is there were, I don't know, I just feel that over the years we've distinguished ourselves here in this region. It's like I said, it's a transient state, so there's a lot of different people that come through here, a lot of people with varying degrees of talent, and the establishment, I guess, down here is a little different. It's more closed off as far as it's sort of the same folks in the same shows directed by the same people. And I think that the great thing about the Lake Worth Playhouse is the variety and the diversity that we have throughout this organization. And it's just I marvel at the amount of work and the quality of work that we're able to do here. And it's also a credit to the staff here and to the folks that I bring in. I could take some credit for that as far as building teams, but I have some folks that have been overlooked, I guess, in the community, just because it's typically like somebody runs a theater company down here and they'll direct all the shows, or it'll be them or another person. And I said they pick from the same kind of small pool of people. Whereas we've always sort of had, it's risky to kind of just throw the doors open and say, we're going to just, we're going to audition people. We're going to cast people that we don't know specifically for, we're not going to go with the same people. And we're going to give other people a chance to bring their visions to life with these different productions. 95% of the time that works out. Sometimes I'll have a rogue director come in or a difficult situation arise, but I just feel like as a whole, it's a great organization to be a part of, and and a great place to come see a show. And I feel like we do our best to provide really something for everyone. And, you know, every interest, every background, every, you know, we sort of, through our education programs, through our films, through our black box theater, through our main stage theater, we really do try to really provide something to everyone and make theater accessible to the entire community down here.
Well, that's what I like that you were telling me. Is like, you know, yeah, we're doing these standard musicals here, but we're also doing these. We're also trying to do this, you know, all these different parts moving. So it's not just the same. As you see that in a lot of theaters. It's like they only want to do the safe stuff. And it's like, if you just do the safe stuff, then you're just giving you're almost just teaching your audience, just consume. You're cutting off the thinking. And theater, I believe, you know, kind of in some of the ways, you know, Brecht thought, you know, I want them to think a little, you know, bit, you know, I don't want them this isn't just mindless entertainment. It's what can you look at your life and change something about yourself from watching a play? Or are you just going to see, you know, that's my problem with Broadway right now. It's just like a lot of it's just like, okay, you're doing Aladdin, but it's like, you can just watch the movie and it's almost word for word the movie. You know, you added a couple of new songs and it's like, that's great, but it's like, that's not going to move theater forward. It's just going to keep it in this, pardon the pun, but you know, a black box where you're just going to keep everything. Everybody's like, this is all we're going to do. We're just going to enjoy this, you know,
and then
we know it's
what happens. What happens is that's safe and it's boring. You know, it's safe to a certain extent. And, you know, this is a business where there's a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of late nights and there's a lot of like hand wringing, and, you know, and I always explain to you know, my wife is in a different field, and I'll say to her, well, like your final, like your whatever project that's due on a specific date, you know, that may be looked at by a few people and discussed by your boss and whatnot. But, you know, when we have a deadline, our project is evaluated by, you know, people buying tickets coming in and then critics, and then, you know what I mean? So there's the constant kind of pressure of that. So sometimes safe feels good and whatnot, but consistently it's not good because you're just repeating yourself and it's boring. And you might as well be selling, you know, hardware somewhere. You know what I mean? It's when it comes down to it. So
well, I mean, that's what, you know, the Hallmark Channel has kind of created. You know, they know what their audience wants, and they're not going to veer off from that. You know, and you know, and kudos to them. That's what their brand is. They know what they want. But when you're running a theater company, it's got to be a little bit different. So I like it's a little bit give or take. You know, it's like, okay, here's the standard, but here's this. You know, you may not like it so much, but you know, we're gonna try something new here to broaden your interest. And since you've seen us do such great work with Guys and Dolls, hopefully you'll trust us. You'll trust us to go with this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Cool. So wrapping up here a little bit, do you have a beginning of the day routine?
No, typically driving to work and worrying about what I have to accomplish is my morning routine. Yeah, I mean, I guess I should, you know, I'm striving to live a healthier and better life as far as how I guess develop even boundaries and how I go about taking care of myself. But you know, I'm sort of all in, and I sort of just I have a lot of thought about typically with each day about what I have to accomplish, because we do so many different things. You know, I'll typically have one show on the stage that's in performances, and I'll have 3 more in rehearsals. So it keeps me busy and keeps me typically thinking about that. But I have these great ideas about maybe going to the beach and meditating and doing different things in the morning to sort of set myself up for the day. I just haven't gotten there yet. So maybe with the new year, that's something that I can improve upon.
New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Do you have a nighttime routine?
Typically I'll come home and I just try to what I will try to do then is I do use some tools where I try to put everything in a bag and just get rid of it from that day.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Try
gotta
to
you gotta leave it at the door.
just leave it at the door and be present with my wife and my pets, and just sort of
Yeah, I don't
blow
want to
off
be there.
steam.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
want
and
to
I
be
just
there
sort of
sitting there and be like,
try to forget about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. She's like, no, you're thinking about something else. No, 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 I'm
Yes,
not.
exactly.
You know, it's like cut that out. You're
Yes.
here. You
Yeah,
can't
you're
do
here
that.
now, and and it's difficult because if you're gone for a
Yeah.
majority of the day, the time that you are there, you have to be present. So it's just trying to battle through that, and
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 you
trying to,
might be like, oh, I just got to figure this thing out. And it's
yeah,
like, you got to
yeah,
like let it go. Yeah.
right,
Do
right,
you meditate? You alluded to it a little bit, but
a
do
little
you do
bit,
any kind?
and a little bit, and it's something that I definitely want to explore more.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what helps me.
especially coming off of COVID, like I said, our model sort of changed.
Mm,
So as far as the amount of programming we're doing, we always did the diversity of it, but now we'll actually start to throw some special events and different things like that, just to try to recoup some of the money that we had lost during that time.
yeah.
So being with a busier schedule, I'm still trying to really figure out a nice balance at this point with
Mm,
that. So it's just sort of, this is the second year really with a really extra full schedule. So I think
mm.
that I can, going forward, I can find more help. I can find, maybe I don't direct. Maybe I really do direct 3
Every
shows instead of 5. Instead of
yeah.
taking the special events on, like I did a weekend of a Great American Trailer Park Christmas musical,
Yeah.
which was only ran a weekend, but it still took 6 weeks to put
Yeah, you
together.
guys
So
still
we
work
did
on it. Yeah.
we did a staged reading of A Streetcar Named Desire at this Tennessee Williams Festival
Mm,
in Vero Beach, Florida. That was a staged reading, was one night, but we worked on that for 6 weeks. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So maybe I
Yeah.
give those things away, and I focus more on
Yeah.
administrating and and just sort of maybe finding a balance. I'm just not there yet.
Delegating some of the other
Yeah,
responsibilities. Yeah. Yeah. You
yeah,
can't do everything. Yeah.
right, right.
It'll go crazy.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now, if anything?
Right now, I'm specifically really focused on the play about the baby, and also an
Mm,
essay by Camus called The Myth of Sisyphus,
mm.
which sort of informs all of absurdist theater. So I've been buried in that a bit. No reading for pleasure on the beach right now, or anything along
Yeah.
those lines, or
Yeah.
even anything to because I'm also picking a season for next year
Yeah.
as well. I have to come up with 10 shows. So there's a lot of that. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, nothing that it's all work related right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are you listening to right now?
I'm listening. Actually, I'm having a Beatles renaissance
Really?
because I watched. When I was a kid, I was a huge Beatles fan because I would listen to my older siblings' records, and that's how I discovered them.
Mm,
Then you go through a period where there's a burnout because you just hear it over and over again. And I heard all the different variations, and I would hear live stuff. And I went down those rabbit holes when I was younger. But I just watched one of the things I do when I come home at night is I'll put something on in the background, and I'll
mm.
cook or I'll do whatever. I watched the Get Back documentary on the Disney Channel done by
That's
Peter
the one with
Jackson.
Peter Jack. Yeah, Peter
Yeah, it's
Jackson. I still haven't
incredible,
seen it. I
incredible.
need to watch
Oh, you
that.
have to see it. If you're involved
Interesting.
in any kind of creative art form, you should see it, because
Yeah.
it actually gave me inspiration, because you watch these guys that are at the top of their game, at the pinnacle of success, and you watch them struggle to come
Does
up
it
with a
show them
song.
fighting?
Shows them fighting,
Does,
really shows them more
like,
than anything struggling to write a song, and you
because that
see
was
the
the thing.
different iterations.
What was it? Let It Be. That was the documentary where like it'll never be seen
Yes,
again because it shows them basically just
yes,
being like,
it's Let It
oh,
Be,
these
and
aren't so nice.
it's Let It Be, and it's all the songs that are on the Let It Be album. But then you hear some of Abbey Road too, because
Mm,
John will say, I have a song, and then they'll start to play I Want You, She's So Heavy, but it's different lyrics and a different
mm.
song, but you hear the genesis of it. But just to see them sit around and struggle in a rehearsal trying to figure out what they're going to do. They had a deadline of a month, and and to see that panic in them, and to see the struggle in them, and then to see the creativity, and to see how it comes out in them, and to see how it formulates into a song. It was really interesting to watch that process, and then also to see the conflict, to see to see the inner dynamics of any kind of creative group or any kind of group of people working on a project together. When it's not just one person, you have to rely on a team to do it. You see how Paul McCartney had to really take the lead and was, in essence, for that period of time, the boss. And how his insistence to get different things done and what he wanted to hear on his song specifically, how that rubbed everybody else the wrong way, specifically George Harrison. But
I'm done.
Yeah, right. He just wrote a little letter and he took off. And then they go through the few days where they went to get him back. But that was something that I was just transfixed by, because honestly, they could have used an editor at some point. They just sort of let it roll, and you'll hear 20 versions of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and it will get a little stagnant and boring here and there. But then at certain times, you're watching these guys in unguarded moments, and you get to see their true personalities and to see the dynamic of them working together, see the struggle, but also see the joy and the love that they have for not only performing and writing music, but for each other. Is just amazing. So that got me into, I started to listen to, I always loved the album Let It Be, even though it was their last and it was panned or this and that. I love the songs off of it. So I started to listen to that again, and I started to listen to Abbey Road, and I started going back to the White Album and earlier things. So a lot of Beatles right now.
That's good. Yes, usually like when you see like a music video, sometimes that'll like make you look at a song differently as well. Like, oh, I didn't think about that. So like adding a documentary to something, it would be like, I see those songs in different lights.
See them in different lights.
What are you watching now? Well, you pretty much answered it, but
yeah, I was watching that for a bit. I also got into I like The Queen. I watched The Queen on Netflix. Peaky Blinders is a show I enjoy.
Cillian Murphy.
White Lotus, The White Lotus. I enjoyed
Everybody's
that as
talking about White Lotus. I still haven't. I gotta watch.
Check out The White Lotus.
Have you watched Andor yet? Have you watched Andor on Disney Plus?
Half of the first episode. That's one that I want to see. I did enjoy the
it's
movie.
Like Blade Runner.
It is.
Rogue One. Where they it feels very Blade Runner-esque with the way they do Andor, and it's like, wow, this doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels like people with problems, because you're seeing how the regular people are affected by all the other stuff that's going around. It's like the regular people have no concept of Jedis and stuff like that. So you're seeing how the Empire is basically authoritarian and is basically just ruling their life, and it's it's really interesting. I was really taken back. I was like, wow, this is actually really good. It's too bad they couldn't have done this before they ruined all the other stuff they did.
Right. I did watch a portion of Obi-Wan, and I didn't like that very much. But I did watch half of an Andor episode, and I was intrigued, and I liked the fact that it was the character from Rogue One. It's a prequel to Rogue One, right?
It's a prequel to a prequel.
Yeah. True. True.
It's really interesting. It's really gritty, and it's you're seeing them struggle, and it's like, that's what I want to see. Yes. I don't want to see them all figuring it out. That's probably my biggest problem with a lot of the movies today, is they think that the protagonist doesn't have to go on a journey to learn anything. It's like, okay, well, if he's figured everything out, then what am I watching?
Right.
It's like, what's the point of this? There's no journey. There's no, might as well just call it Man Conquers Everything. It just does like nothing. Did you see The House of the Dragon?
Yes.
What you think of that?
I enjoyed that. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah, me too.
So
not
I
season
did
8.
like. What's that?
Not season 8.
No, not season 8. Even though I will say that the spectacle of season 8 if you go back and watch some of those episodes, or it's, you know, visually enjoyable and whatnot. But yes, once they lost the source material, season 6 was good, but once they lost the source
season
material,
5 is like where they start to like, you're like,
right,
you don't have any ideas, you don't know, the prose is lost. You don't have these lines like when they're all coming in at season 2 in the battle of, you know, Blackwater or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's in there. It's like, I'd rather be in with a bunch of a flock of frightened hens than, you miss those lines.
Right.
We're not in the later seasons because they're being written by showrunners, not writers anymore.
Not a novelist
So it loses that prose, which is, I think, what gave Game of Thrones its different feel.
Yes.
You know, it had this, it had kind of the way we talk, but it also had that Shakespearean element to it. That didn't feel too foreign to people that don't know anything about Shakespeare. So it crafted the right balance. Of the sides, and
it had that, and it was always about the journey too. And they would put characters together, and it would be a season of them trying to, or even longer,
to get there,
point A to point B. And
then the journey to there,
and it just became, you know, instantaneous in the later seasons.
Yeah, like now he's made his way all the way back from the north in like 20 minutes. It's like, okay, so like what did he do? You know, he's not on a dragon, he's taking a horse.
Right.
So like, what did he do?
But they've left it, I mean, it's not like they left it open for this, but conceivably, I mean, this is as if George Martin's
can finish
novels
the books.
never finishes the books. Conceivably 20 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you could bring it back. You could have, because you have, I mean, you could even bring Daenerys back. That dragon flew her off to somewhere. Why couldn't it be to Valeria?
Or how about just redo the 8th season and pretend that didn't happen?
True, you could do that. But House of the Dragon, I did enjoy the fact that they used the original music, and that was cool. a lot of like even the scene, you know, the score during the scenes, they used similar stuff. I did enjoy it. I did have the connection I did with the original shows specifically, but it was definitely something that I look forward to each Sunday to watch.
It wasn't bad.
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of people really want to see the Baratheon rebellion and how they took power from Daenerys, you know, from the Targaryens, which they're not going to show that yet. But I mean, I think that's the prequel that a lot of people want to see, is like the stuff that they alluded to. It's like not this stuff that like doesn't really matter in some ways. Right.
Well, there's
like when they did a Black Widow movie. It's like, what's, you know, she's dead. What are we gonna do with her?
Right. Well, isn't there a major spoiler in one of the episodes where Joffrey essentially says what happens to who is
I think he does.
He does. He's showing the dinosaur remains.
To
the dragon remains to Marjorie.
Yeah. Where she's trying to she's trying to like get him to like her.
Right.
Like, look at my bug collection.
Somebody put it out on social media with the little clip where he says exactly what happens, and I went, why did I watch that?
Great.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can see how that gets to that point, or maybe they play it off as, you know, how things are told over time, the whisper down the lane, you know, the true story isn't the true story by the time you hear it, sort of deal. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely a lot of painful childbirth scenes in that too.
Yeah, that's what they kind of.
Yeah.
I like that Matt Smith got to be, as I've been watching him since like Doctor Who, and I'm like, now everybody knows how good he is, and I'm like, what are you doing? This guy's really good. And then the guy who's in Peaky Blinders, who plays the king, he's really good.
Paddy Considine.
Yeah, he took that scene when he comes in and, you know, he's like on death's door.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was just like, okay, that's really good. That's what I want to see. But I think the problem with it is also it changes the time periods. So I think that hurts it in some ways. I think people are like, wait, we're going to this now.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting
So
to see how it develops. I think they have enough currency now with enough interest and whatnot, where it probably will. Looking back on it, you'll say, maybe season 1 isn't the most popular. It's just sort of your exposition, and we get into the meat of, I'm intrigued by the sons and the other characters and where all that's heading.
Yeah. I mean, they won back a lot of the bad will they had.
Yeah,
with
definitely.
this season, where it's like, okay, this was really good. All right, we'll give you a chance, because they're doing the Jon Snow after, I guess, and I'm like, how's that gonna work?
A buddy comedy up north. They with Tormund are gonna go off solving crimes. Yeah. I'll tune in, yeah.
At the end of that, out of Game of Thrones, and he found out what happens to Jon Snow, and he was like, "What? He's back to Castle Black? That's what we got? Back to Castle Black?"
When Grey Worm leaves King's Landing, he could have just went right back. I mean, there was a lot of but I always got the impression, I don't know, my take on it was that when he goes on an expedition north, that he actually was never going to go back to the Wall. That he reported the Wall, but his life is going to be in the north, running wild with Tormund. So maybe, like I said, they'll come up with some sort of buddy comedy where they're solving.
What's he gonna do? Grey Worm finds out about it. It's like, he's on a quest to get him. It's like, you're not really suited for the cold, man.
Yeah. Those uniforms won't last up north. Plus, they were, when it came down to it, I always was, I've rewatched that thing.
Yeah.
The original series, I don't know how many times, and the Unsullied weren't that great when it came down to it. I mean, they got beat a lot. The Unsullied, they weren't.
It's just to give her an army,
right? They were all right. I mean, but they when they had the whole season with the what was that, the Harpy, the the Sons of the Harpy.
Sons of the Harpy. Yeah,
and they were taking out the Unsullied like they were, like they were nothing in some cases. But I was obsessed with that show for
many
years.
The dragons came. Yeah. So I mean, it's nice to see it kind of coming back, because it's like, it was sad how it ended. I was just like, this is great if this is how you wanted to get here, but you needed to give us another season to get here, because it's like, she can't be a bad guy it's like right after they defeat the White Walkers, like, oh, we're gonna turn her into a bad guy. I'm like, really?
Right.
we're just going straight to that. Like, there's like, I mean, we always knew she had the ability to become that.
Yeah.
But it's like that you didn't show enough of that foreshadowing to like really show, like, how did she come to that decision? Her hearing 3 bells, and it's like, well, she was really overcome with emotion, so she destroys an entire city.
Right.
I'm like that's overreacting. That's that.
Yes.
You've taken her into like a supervillain now, where she's just
nuts. Right. Like the Scourge, I mean, one of the biggest supervillain that has ever existed, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Arya Stark comes there, and she's like, you know what? I don't really want to do this anymore. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
That we're at this point. This is when you're gonna decide this.
Right.
It's like, and that was my other problem. The Night King, like, they built him up so well, and it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, if that's all it took to take him on, like, a lot of people wanted to see like Bran, because like he had to do something to do it. And it's like, no, he's gonna sit in a wheelchair and he'll be bait for them. So
yeah, that's what disappointed me especially. Was why did he study for all of these years? And I expected this big confrontation, a showdown, and
he does nothing.
Bait. Right. Just lures him out there.
All right. Well, we could talk about this for forever.
I know.
How can people reach you? Thank you for doing this as well.
Yeah. You can reach me you can email me at daniel@lakeworthplayhouse.org. That's the best way to get in touch with me. So yeah, you could go on the lakeworthplayhouse.org website to find out everything that we're doing, all the programs that we have, the classes that we have. I'm going to be announcing a new season fairly soon, but I still have some good shows this season. Like I said, we have the main stage with, more entertainment, happy stuff, and the black box with some more introspective, grittier stuff. And yeah, we're churning along. I have a rehearsal here in about 2 hours, so it's a good day. And yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, wants to get involved, wants any further questions, anything like that, it's Daniel@lakeworthplayhouse.org.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.